Welcome to the February update of the New Haven Willoughby line. I've got a bunch of little things to show you, so let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about, and then I'll show you, is CV29 and how I've been messing it up since the beginning. And I'm not sure what made the spark go off in my brain, but I finally figured, essentially on CV29, most of my decoders are Digitrack, so that's what I have to go on basically. And I've been using the NC Power Cab system, so that's what I'm using. And for some reason, I don't know how I missed this, I read the manual, when I program CV29, if I restart a decoder like from the beginning and I reset it and I start it up, for some reason when I go through the menus it leads to the three, I think it's like CV 4, 5, and 6, and those are like the 3-step speed tables for, starting, middle, and highest point of the entire speed step. And if you set those, it gives you like a constant slope. And for some reason, when I set up a decoder, I select that method. And then when I want to adjust the decoder, I'll go into the individual speed steps for a 28-step process and start manipulating those. And then for some reason, I'm not noticing a difference in the output, but it's not clicking that that's because it's set up for the 3-step, like the basic, CV4, 5, and 6 process, if that makes sense. So for some reason I discovered I have to go in, essentially when I have been resetting my decoders, this CV29 has been set at, I think, like 34 or 35, depending on the direction of the locomotive. But in order to activate or let the decoder know that I want to use that full 28-step process and adjust CVs 67, 68, 69, 70s into the 80s, that 28-step process, if I have set up my decoder for enabling the short, the CV 4, 5, and 6, those other speed steps don't have any functionality. So for some reason, I don't know why I missed that for, I don't know how many, I hate to admit how many years, but I finally figured it out, and it's made a huge difference on, essentially to backtrack, I essentially discovered this through trying to speed match 2 of my RS1s. And for those, the Katos or Katos, my Atlas locomotives and a few of my other ones, I haven't messed with my Rapido, but those, for some reason, the throttle on those, the speed steps, they're all pretty good as is, no matter how the decoder's set up. But where I really notice a difference is with my Athearn Blue boxes. And I would see videos where people would have like an Athearn Blue box locomotive, put a decoder in it, like a Digitrax, and when I'd watch the videos, they'd be going really slow, really smooth. They're noisy, some of them, but they're super smooth. I could never get mine to run as smooth. And that was because I had each decoder set up as a default for using the CV 4, 5, and 6s, or that smaller process. I can't remember what the actual terminology is on that, but essentially I was never using CVs 67, 68, 69 up to 84 or whatever it is. So once I discovered this recently, since my last update, I've since updated, I think I've double checked all my decoders. I think I started with the actual speed matching though for those 2 RSs. I actually did go back and make sure those 2 decoders were set for the 3 step process, just to have like a base starting point to speed match, and then I can adjust from there. I'm not fully finished with them, but they're pretty good. They're pretty close, and I have a consist set up with them currently. But let me show you the 2 blue boxes. And the other thing that I noticed that my locomotives were not doing that everybody else's were doing, and I mean everybody that I've seen, on YouTube, is that like speed step 1, I wouldn't get any movement, and I'd have to set the CV essentially I would set CV 67, I think, is what I thought was the first speed step. But again, I had it set for the first speed step being CV4. So when I adjusted 67, there was no change. And no matter what I set that CV at, I think it was just my brain playing a trick on me that I was actually seeing a difference when I actually wasn't, because the decoder wasn't, I wasn't programming the decoder correctly. Hopefully all of that makes sense. I don't know. Hate to admit that mistake that I've been dealing with that for so long. And again, it's with my other locomotives, I don't really mess with speed steps. I don't get into that. When I've reset decoders with like lighting issues and things like that, I guess I probably, I don't know, I guess I don't really tinker with that. I know I have in the past, and I guess I just didn't notice, or I did it for such a long time tinkering with the higher CVs, I just figured I was seeing a difference when I wasn't. Anyways, long story short, let me show you the two blue boxes. I've got an F7 custom painted that I did a while ago, and then I pulled out of storage my GP7 blue box, and they're both noisy and rickety. They don't run that smooth, but the decoder is functioning correctly. I've programmed it correctly, so they do crawl at a much lower speed. So let me show you those real quick, and then we'll get into the next bit. Okay, so first let me show you the F7 custom painted. I tried to get the front end painted more accurate to the New Haven paint scheme on the, I'm drawing a blank, the FL9s. So this is how this one is running. So that's speed step 1, and it's moving. It moved. It's kind of jerky, but I actually have movement. So before I wouldn't get any movement at all. So speed step 2, and now it's crawling, and there was no, and it stops. The connections aren't great. This is speed step 3, and you can see it's trying to fight, but I couldn't get this slow movement at speed step 8. It was like, I couldn't describe it. So now it's got a better section of track. Maybe the vibrations have made the connections a little bit better. You can see it's a little sputtery. The increments between the speed steps are a lot smoother. But this is speed step 4, and this guy is running better than he has ever run. And that's just beautiful to see that coming through. And again, this was all because I thought that I had it set up for the 28 speed step. But it's gonna short because I gotta switch out. I stopped it. Okay, so this is speed step 1, and you can, I don't know if you picked that up, but this is still speed step 1. It's kind of grinding, but there is jerky motion. Speed steps 2. This is 3. He's pulling 3 gondolas. I could probably mess around with the CVs a little bit. Again, now that I know which is the correct CVs to play with. And we hit a dead spot. The wheels could be dirty too. I haven't run or cleaned these two locomotives in a long time because they just never ran that great. They were DC converted and they ran, but it was like I had to go. All right, now I'm at step 5, step 6, and that's, like, to me, very smooth. This guy's very noisy. I don't know if you can see the motor in there spinning, but it's pretty smooth. So I'm going to stop it. Hopefully that explanation made some sense to people. I don't want to dwell on this. What I did is initially the LED for the rear is actually, it was back here. And there was a plastic lens that came into the cab and then went up and then went across the top of the inside and then out here. And it just never shined brightly. It wasn't lined up. It was essentially, the LED was inside the engine part here. And it just, I don't know if I didn't do something correctly or if that was just the design. But what I actually did is I cut a little hole in a piece inside here that you probably can't see, and fed the LED in there and then up through the top, and then it comes out through the lens up here, if that makes sense. It lights up the whole cab, which I'm okay with, but you know, now I have the rear light that actually works. So I'm super psyched about that. It looks a lot better. I tried to do some light blocking so it didn't get too much into the cab. I could probably still adjust some of that stuff inside. It was kind of a pain to get that shell off as well. I hate taking the shell off of any locomotive except for the blue boxes. Let's see if I have the headlight too. So I have the headlight, and then I can have the rear light. And again, they're non-directional. Again, I don't know how prototypical that is, but that's fine. So if I reverse it, probably the front one will go off is my guess, but the rear one will stay. It's hard to do this with one hand. Yeah, so now it's in reverse. The front one goes off, but the rear one stays. So that's fine. That's decent functionality for me. I can keep the rear one on or off if I want and control it independently. So, but that was kind of my first modification of a cab, of a locomotive on the inside. And that little project was something I'm pretty proud of. Then the other thing that I started to do was, a long story, I had LEDs from my music studio left over and had watched some videos on how to use those to light interior kits and things. So I started, I ran a DC bus for LEDs from my old power pack that's underneath here, and ran a bus under this whole table all the way out to here. So I have a bus that I can use to light everything on this side of the layout. And I have this building lit. You can probably see the wires in there, and hopefully it comes through, but you can see the wires in there. So this structure's lit. This one is lit as well. You can see there's stuff inside of there, and it's lit. And then I think I lit this one too. Yeah, I lit 3 of them. And this one is lit as well. The lighting in here is terrible. I don't have any, I've just got these huge LEDs above. If I come over here, shut this light off, you'll probably be able to see a little bit better. But so that kit is lit, and of course you can see the light leak underneath there. That's terrible. You don't notice it when the lights are on above. I love the light shining on the street. That's probably way too harsh of light coming through the windows. And then this one as well. So they look cool. It's a subtle little touch. I'm gonna throw the lights back on. So one little addition that adds a lot of realism are these little light posts from Tichy train groups. I added one there, and then I added a bunch in this downtown area. So that is one little thing that adds a ton of little detail. It's, you know, accumulative. You add, you know, the people, then you add a car, then you add, you know, a crate and a garbage can, and each time you add something little, it is cumulative, it adds up, and eventually things look pretty good. So I'm super psyched with those. They're not functioning. Eventually I will probably do something with functioning streetlights, but for now, those are pretty cool. Another little project that I had been working on since the last update was updating some of the little details on these tank cars. I've been weathering the trucks a little bit better. They were very rusty. I'm still not completely sold on them, but they are a lot darker. They look a lot better. They kind of blend into the full tank, or the rest of the tank car. So that was one little thing I worked on. And then I found these little safety boards, the little diamond shaped bits that I added on there. They were in a box that I had of parts. So I added those and touched up a few little things. So that was one little project that I worked on. I have to decal a bunch of them eventually, but I like them on the layout, and just that extra little safety board on there adds a little bit that wasn't there before. So real quick, foliage. I bought this super moss, reindeer moss, at Michael's a little while ago. Finally start to get some of it up on the layout. I'll show you. But I quickly learned instantly not to spray this stuff with alcohol, because the pigment in it runs. And when it runs, it doesn't run that green, it runs highlighter yellow right out of that stuff. So let me show you what it looks like. It's toned down, it tones down once it dries. But I added some of it in a few sections, but here you can see all the yellow underneath is what happens when you hit that stuff with alcohol. So live and learn. I don't know if other varieties of that stuff, if you buy it at a hobby shop, I think it's packaged differently. At least I feel like it was when I was a kid, but that's going back 35 years. I don't know if there's different varieties. Somebody may have some stuff. You can leave comments in the comment section about this, but that stuff does not like alcohol. So this stuff I just hit with my regular Mod Podge mix, but this section here I added, and I actually had to re-turf that area underneath it because it just was way too yellow underneath that, as the alcohol just bled all of the pigment out of that. It still maintains its green color, like it doesn't look like it lost any pigment, but the alcohol instantly turns yellow, and it's like a bright yellow. I mean, I think that's pretty evident of it in there. In some spots it might look okay or natural, but I didn't like it, so live and learn. The other thing I did, my dad came to look at the layout a little while ago, and he had made a comment about these roads going to nowhere. So like this one just goes and hits the wall, and this one goes and hits the wall, and you could see the evidence where this one was, and that hit the wall. And I had 3 of them, and so I decided to at least get rid of one. I could probably, actually now that I think of it, just have this one go up and around and get rid of that one as well. So that may actually be in the works. But I did get rid of this one, and I'm not sure what to do with that section there. That just kind of looks terrible. I might be able to be creative with that little section, but I wanted to eliminate one of them, so I started to get rid of this section. I need to get a few more structures for this layout. I need to work on this hill section. I think I really want a church and a few other little things, and then I want some structures on this section here. But yeah, I got rid of that road to nowhere. And speaking of structures, I've been using some scraps to make this little extension. I'm not sure where to put it yet. I was thinking maybe some kind of extra little extension off of this structure here in this space. If I put it up on, maybe if I put it up on a foundation or something and then add some stairs, I could you know, do something like that, that might not be bad. I kind of feel like if I'm going to put an extension off of this to kind of break things up a little bit, I would need, as I break that part off, that's okay, it's just kind of a mock setup right now. But if I added something here, I probably would want something a little bit bigger to fill in the space and to go make it look a little bit more realistic to the scale of this building, because this building's pretty decent size. So I've been working on this thing. I'm probably going to just keep it off of this, because this structure is kind of too simple. So I'm probably going to just leave it as it was. And I almost kind of like the location of this one. But the other, and then I moved this one over here too. The Sugar Land, or there's the Greatland, I always call it Sugar Land. It's the Greatland Sugar Refinery. Came with this main building, and then this one, and then one that I'm going to show you in a second. And I've been trying to place things around best I can. And then I have this scratch-built one, but I didn't really like the scale of the roof to the relation to the rest of the structure. And so I think I'm going to probably keep this little extension on this to make this complete. And I'm still moving things around. I kind of like where this is now on the other side of the tracks, just so there's not all brick together. So it's kind of like brick, wood, brick. So it's not just brick and then wood, if that makes sense. So it also kind of bridges in between, you know, wood and wood, so it breaks things up material-wise, which I kind of like. So I think I had this smaller structure here in this space here, and I think I kind of like where this is. So I don't know, things are still moving around, but I did, so that those two structures are still movable. This one here, and I'm going to need some help with some feedback on this. This one I kind of permanently added here. It's not permanent in that you can't move it. It comes up. But I took a lot of care to get it's kind of hard to see, and it's kind of hard to appreciate the amount of effort that went into getting it grounded. And there's still a couple of gaps underneath the foundation. But I used a lot of layers of Sculptamold to build up this area here of ground underneath, because essentially this went down the thickness of roadbed. So I have it in this area. I love it. It makes this interesting where the track goes in between buildings, and as opposed to just, you know, a track behind and then the yard directly with just dead space here. It serves as another industry, so I have another location to bring things into the yard. I'm just not 100% sure if it's too close. That's probably one of my widest locomotives, and it's pretty darn close to there, that structure. If that's okay, let me know. If you think it's too close and it needs to get moved back, let me know. I think that is going to wrap it up for this update. I guess I had a lot to share this month. Hope everybody had a good February so far, and you have a good rest of your February, and we'll see you in March.